Bum, 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 bam.
Damn, boys. Damn.
Oh. Yes,
at
sir.
this.
How are we doing today?
I think people really like you. We got a lot of good attention around the fact that you're coming on the show. My buddy Austin from Battle Bunker, you know Austin Alexander? He's
Yeah,
pumped that
what's
you're on
up,
the
dude?
show.
What's up, Austin?
Dude, people
Love
like
him,
you,
love the
dude.
bunker. Austin's a
'Cause-
great guy.
It's because there's a lot of sex appeal in these pictures. I asked for Jake to send me pictures, and he basically sent me a bunch of softcore porn photos.
Oh,
It's
like
a
if you ask Hunter for photos, they're going to be any different.
What are you talking about, dude? It's all buttoned up. It's all buttoned up. I'm a Christian man. Would never show skin.
Don't be fooled, folks. Don't be fooled.
I don't know, man. It'd be harder to see who's the more delinquent between the two of us. I was trying to come up with some stories just to kind of feed people into how we know each other, and I was just like, man,
You got to be selective.
Gotta be selective. I mean, there's some in there that I'm like, fuck, the world should know about this, but I don't know if it presents value for either of us. It's maybe best kept between us.
That's
but
fair.
to give people some context on my boy Jake here, a handful of years ago, I was blessed with the opportunity to have a workout program on a platform called OpenFit, which was owned by Beachbody, now has been absorbed by Beachbody. And I had this program called T-30 through Tough Mudder. And it was a extremely rigorous 30-day program. And we designed this thing. And like, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably done P90X and you've done Insanity. They're fucking hard. I mean, Ryan, you've done a couple of their programs, right?
P90X3, yeah, T25 and Max 30. Max 30 is a giant beast and just killer every day. And then I just realized that you guys still have your T-30, so I've loaded a couple of those up too.
You better start doing it, dude. I bet you'd be more buff than the regular house programs. So we're going through these castings. I'm the lead guy, and they're like, hey, Hunter, you got to have, 6 people behind you. We need, 3 girls, 3 guys. And I'm like, okay. So we really only have these workouts that we're putting people through 5-minute workouts, and I'm calling out the shots, making them do the workouts, and all these gorgeous fitness models come in, like, girls like 5'10", like hourglass figure, beautiful dudes, big buff shoulders, ripped abs, fucking legs and biceps. And I'm like, damn.
And then there's Jake.
And then there's Hunter.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I'm questioning myself now at this point. I'm like, I don't think I should be the front man. These guys all look so good. And then all of a sudden I start calling out the commands. I'm like, all right, guys, 30 seconds, jumping, like we'll start air squats. All right, everybody down on the ground, 30 seconds, mountain climbers. Now we're going to do 30-second pike ups. Now we're going to do some jumping lunges, because you just got to keep the beat, and you have to like show struggle, but it has to be Hollywood struggle. Like, you can't really be struggling because this is a fucking show. And if you're struggling, you're wrecking the show. Like, you're basically deterring people who want to do the program to do the program because it looks so tough. Everyone's blowing out. And I look over and I see this one dude, and he just doesn't stop. And I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? And he's got this tight military cut, ripped to shreds, got some hard tats, tan, just Hollywood right off the beach tan. And I nicknamed so
in New York, in the
dead of winter, by the way.
So these were all filmed in New York?
All filmed in New York City, and like Brooklyn, and like, some dumpy. I mean, listen, it's what was probably the best thing for us, but we were in some like bricked out, dumpy, like warehouse space in Brooklyn.
It was great. It was Bushwick. It was nice.
It was. But so we start putting out the cards afterwards, and they're like, all right, who are we gonna pick? And I just immediately point at Jake's card, and I was like, that dude. His nickname is Nonstop Jake. That dude did not stop. He is going to be part of the show, and he's my lead man, because when everybody starts to falter, I'm going to lean on this guy. And they're like, okay. And that's how we got the nickname Nonstop Jake. And we then threw ourselves into the depths of, this was a pretty intensive thing. We had 1 month build time where we had to do all like the choreographing and stuff. And then we had 2 weeks of filming, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Or 3. I forget.
It was fucked.
Yeah.
At one point, just by the way, this workout program was so intense that I thought that I got an STD. I went on a date with a girl.
Gym mats?
This is crazy. I went on a date with a girl, And I'll be honest, like, you know, we got together, we connected very well. And a couple days later, you know, it's burning like crazy when I'm peeing. And I'm like, oh God. I was like, I've never picked up anything at this point, and I'm in the depths of filming like a peak, like one of the highlights of my life and my career. And I called the producer and I say, dude, I can't come into work tomorrow. Like I need to go and get this checked out. Like I'm dying. They're like, we don't have time to stop filming. We're calling a doctor and we're getting this done right now.
That was when the director didn't give you any sympathy either, because she used to shoot porn.
Yep. Didn't give a shit. She was like, you're going to be at work tomorrow, and we're getting you to the doctor right now.
Lay through.
I go and, you know, I whip it out in front of the guy. He's astonished. He's like, this is great. But
this is a beautiful specimen.
This is great. This is already a great start. But he runs my piss and he's like, dude, I don't think you have anything wrong with you. He's like, you're just so chronically dehydrated that you're like, you're peeing out like salt crystals. They're like precursors to a kidney stone.
Oxalates.
It'd be like rhabdo.
I don't even know, man, but it was cutting up my urethra. And what was happening is we were filming, and they have supplements that they sell also through the company. And I'm drinking 5 pre-workouts a day. We're filming 3 to 4 spots a day in front of these cooking hot lights. And I'm basically destroying my body from the inside out. Luckily, like honestly, I think the reason why Jake and I are such good friends is because we survived it. It is a freaking hard job. It is no joking around. It's just like, hey man, you're back out again. Hey man, you're back out again. And I'm sorry, I just went on a total rant, but Jake has been a good friend of mine for 5 years now. And I want people to understand the reason why Jake is such an incredible person is he's a show up, get shit done kind of dude. And I could see it from the start. And also, there's no layer of bullshit beyond it. Like, he gives you exactly what he can give you. And there's no, hey, what do I get in return? Hey, like, it's not a greased up pole here, dude. He's just a hard hitting dude. And now let's just get into the nitty gritty and get to know Jake really well. But thanks for coming on the show, by the way.
Question about filming and everything. So let's say you do a great job of, like, when the camera's on, there's no flub ups. There's no type of like stumbling on words. So let's say you're having a bad day. You get through. It's at the end of the 90-second cycle of the circuit that you're doing, and you mess up, and you're like, oh, I guess we don't have any other time. And like, it's a total mess up. Do you have to go back to the beginning and film that whole thing over? Or it's like, all right, 30 seconds before we were here, just say the words that you were going to say again, but don't mess them up this time? Or do you make the whole crew and the whole buddy on the floor do that entire like 90-second circuit again?
A little bit of both, depending on the take.
We didn't fuck up that much, though.
We didn't, because I remember when we did, and it was like, fuck, we got to do that whole thing again. And it was like, y'all, that's not happening again. And I remember Hunter being like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. This is the schedule. This is the sequence of events, da-da-da-da-da. And Hunter was great. Like you said, Ryan, Hunter was pretty much first take, got it done, could ad-lib it well, could free flow. And I was like, this is great. It's just us show up, be in position, get the work done, cut. But those times we would mess up, or Hunter would say, hey, this is what we're doing. And then one day, I think one of the first couple days we were shooting, I was like, dude, you said blah, 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 that we were going to do blah, 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 blah. And he goes, yeah, well, I lied. I was like, okay, well, fuck, curveball. But I loved it. You know, these are tougher.
These are 24-minute takes, by the way. These are 24-minute takes. And
we're doing like 5 a day.
Yeah, they're 24-minute takes. And you know, it's fun. They put like a squat rack in the background with like weights, and we would just go over and just throw down on 225 hard as fuck just to get our mojo flowing. Yeah. And dude, you got to understand, like, none of these movements are BS. Like, these sit-ups might as well be one of the hardest movements out there. You can take a pair of 20-pound dumbbells and ruin a person.
Yes. Oh, dude, I remember the first day after the casting, we still had, after we got cast, we had like another weed out the first day of rehearsals. You remember that, Hunter? And we did the 3 movement with the dumbbells, and we couldn't put them down, where it was
death by dumbbells.
Yeah, swings.
They didn't want that name, dude, but I called it death by dumbbells.
And like everybody was breaking, and we lost like, you know, half the cast right there.
Which is pretty crazy. And you know, it's funny. This is my most popular thing right now. I get messages from 2 to 3 random people a day, sometimes a half a dozen people a day that I've never met before. And you've told me people have walked up you into airports and stuff and be like, yo, you're Jake.
I had a cab driver on my birthday, or an Uber driver on my birthday in New Orleans, of all people, of all places. I'm from New Orleans. I was there for my birthday this past year. And this is like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm never out that late, but it was my birthday, celebrating with friends. And this guy's dropped me off and he's like, man, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, oh God, like where? You know, I don't know where this could be going. And then he starts saying, he's like, man, you're Nonstop Jake, or you're on Tough Mudder. I was like, dude, who put you up to this? You know, where's the camera in here? How am I being taken or whatever? But that, and then one time at a hotel with my mother, I heard my mom scream from the other room because she was flipping the channels and our thing was on like a demand stream or something. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is on the hotel channel. You know,
Honey's on television.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, you're sitting on your couch after a hangover with you're eating your donut and you're like, damn, I should probably do that. And when it's filming through all your Beachbody things you could do.
It was an incredible opportunity, man. It's such a cool company, and like I'm grateful to this day. More grateful for the friends that I've made. We had some really nutty people on that cast. Angelo, top of the list.
Yeah, he was fun.
Top of the list. So I mean, it's hard to describe you because like you sent me over your resume, and you're a modern day Renaissance man, which is awesome. Like these are the people that I want to have in my life. Like if I have a deck of cards, you only have 52 cards, like you're one of the top people that you want to put in that deck. Because I think not only is it nice to have somebody in your life that is multifaceted, interesting, but also dynamic, but shows the fuck up on all of those pages. And you're one of those kind of dudes. So
same.
Let's just say chapter 1 of your life. I mean, like obviously you had your youth, you grew up. Were you ended up becoming a Marine, but what was the thing that led you there? Were you always a hard hitting dude? Because I used to like throw rocks at windows, smoke weed, and climb trees. I was not the first iteration of Hunter McIntyre was not a reflective point of where I am now. But I mean, that was just me as a kid. Was there anything that was a massive indicator that kind of was a early projection of where you are now?
Yeah, the opposite, you know, similar to yours. Throwing rocks, breaking windows, lighting shit on fire, smoking weed, and feeling really inadequate. You know, had a huge inferiority complex about life and about myself, man. Self-esteem was, I used a lot of interest and excitement and high energy to kind of mask my own internal fear that I had because my parents got divorced when I was a kid. My mother left when I was young still, and I was with my father and his wife, who had an affair behind my mother's back for like 8 years of their marriage, and then had to live with them being portrayed as my parents to all of my friends. So like the home front that I grew up on was basically a facade. So to me, going to the military was a luxury to get away from what I felt growing up with was, you know, so much of a fucking lie.
Heavy.
We just drop a bomb right on there to start. I don't cover that shit up anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like when someone asks me now, I'm like, I'm going to fucking tell you straight up because fuck them. I'm not covering their tracks anymore. And like, I had to eat it for, 35 some odd years of my life before. And it's now I'm like, I'm telling the truth, dude.
Oh, dude, we'll dive in that in 2 seconds, but I just want you to notice that someone showed up in the corner to say hi to you.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't recognize me.
It's Alex. Holy shit. I didn't. Clark Kent with his glasses on.
No, Austin Alex.
Austin Alexander.
It's all right.
Dude, I call him Alex all the time too.
Yeah, Hunter. He's like, hey, Alex. What's your name? I'm like, Austin. He's like, oh, okay.
Dude, let's legally change your name at this point, dude.
See, that's why Hunter and I get along. We both throw rocks at broke shit. We both smoke weed. We both call Austin Alex.
Yep.
Dude, what's up, man?
I saw that you were on the show this morning. I didn't know you guys even knew each other.
Dude, we broke it down a little bit, but he and I worked together on a project in 2018. Yeah. Homies, real tight crew.
Yeah, I've got a story. We both peed with our shorts around our ankles and saw each other in the bathroom like that. Was like, okay, we can get along. You know,
that's perfect. I've got a story about Jake. You know, I was at this SEAL swim, and I was just a pogue. You know, I was just a regular Navy dude, and I was around all these Navy SEALs and former Navy SEALs, and nobody would speak to me. And then here comes Jake. Never met him before. He's like, "What's up, dude?" He's like, "I'm Jake. Where are you from? Like one of the only guys that was nice enough to introduce himself to me.
Oh, dude.
Heart of gold, dude.
Y'all are gonna make me cry, man. It was me being there as the Marine. I was right there with you, Austin. You know, I was surrounded by all these fucking SEALs, and I'm like the lonely devil dog. And everybody's like, dude, what did you get lost on you get on the wrong bus? You know, I'm like, yeah. Ha ha ha, I get it too.
Is this where you guys swam to the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, man.
Yes, from the Statue of Liberty. I felt like I was dying the first mile, by the way, and eventually it was like 3.7 miles total swim.
Oh my God! Did you guys have a chemical bath afterwards?
It's a pretty good shower, but like I went out in my clothes, in my swim shorts that night.
Really?
Dude, everybody changed, and like to go out, I was like, I'm literally going out in the silkies and the t-shirt they gave us for the day of the event. And like, I'm gonna bring a girl home and she's gonna love me for what I am.
There you go. There you go.
I was shaking water out of my ears like 2 weeks after that, and it was like brown, black water.
You're not supposed to swim in that stuff, right?
Jake, do you know the capacity that Austin and I work in together? Have you heard of Battle Bunker?
I've seen the bunker. Yeah, like I love the challenges and seeing guys in the fucking parking lots ripping pull-ups, squats. Like that old guy that banged out, what was that, like 50 something or 100 reps? 100 reps of 135. He's like 62 years old or whatever.
Mm-hmm. How much you give per squat?
What?
How much did you give him per squat?
It was $1 per squat.
Damn.
Yeah.
Pretty sick.
I bet you that guy has scoliosis now, but he definitely went home, just bought himself a bottle of whiskey, poured some on his back and the rest in his mouth.
Probably so. Yeah. He's an old, he's a Navy veteran.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to try to drag Jake into the pipeline this year. I mean, he's a super fit guy. We're going to get into all that, get all the facets of him. But I mean, honestly, we're spreading the good word. You're one of the people that we should be directly looking for. I mean, honestly, we're trying to inspire the world through incredible soldiers and first responders. You're top of the list, champ.
You mean Marines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, can you not call a Marine a soldier?
He would be a service member or a troop, but yeah, soldier would be specifically to the Army.
That's really? Like if yeah, it's
so you're like a sailor?
Yes.
Oh,
I was or am. Jake is a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
We're both mariners. We're both watermen, you could say. I mean, the Marine Corps is a department of the Navy, so the
highest level of the Marine Corps is an admiral, correct, or a general?
General, admiral to the Navy.
Mm.
So much confusion going on here, boys. I mean, I just read a whole Marine book and I was confused half the time.
It's a lot of lingo, a lot of acronyms, because we're not always the sharpest tools in the shed, so we need the shortcuts of how to remember stuff.
Really supposedly, the way that we won the Japanese-American War was basically with Marines, and Marines were so terrifying to I was just going to say the Asiatic area, because, you're fighting a bunch of different people in there, but mostly the Japanese and the Chinese for a while. But you guys were known to be like, to wreck, rape, and pillage, just not really rape, but I'm saying just absolutely crush. And the thing that was really, really you guys were known for is you used to wear this sleeve. Girls walk like this. The fuck is that?
Who's listening to all the pretty girls?
Like, is that an intro to this? What Tori is about to tell? This is cool.
You guys used to wear yellow casings over your calves and sleeves, and anytime it was you guys were seen, the opposing army would just bolt.
Yeah,
because you guys were just so crazed. And if the regular army came, they'd be like, let's just crush these guys. They're just regular army guys. But when the Marines came, they basically wore those yellow pants, and they were known to be crazed. They were like the devil of the land. So if you guys got a pair of yellow slacks, you should put them on at all times.
I noticed you've got some yellow pants. Is that why you bought them?
100%, dude.
Ayo, okay.
Nifty.
Okay. Everybody run for the hills.
I went hunting in these pants. They got some duck.
All right, boys, I'm going to tune out. Nice to speak with you. Nice to talk with you, Jake.
It's good to see you, Austin. I'll see you.
Yes, Joncho.
See you later.
Be well.
That was a good intro.
What a surprise. What a surprise, dude.
Yeah, he's a good fella, dude.
He's awesome.
So you end up going through the arc of being a young man. I think all of us have our own versions of that story. Some are a little more docile than others. And then all of a sudden you choose the path of the Marines. Why Marines? And, tell us a little bit about that experience. Cause I wanted to be a Navy SEAL and they wouldn't let me in.
This is why we are so, we get along so well, man. When I went to the recruiter's office, the first office I went into was the Navy, because my uncle was in the Navy. He was with the teams. And that to me was the pinnacle, the elite. And I was like, I'm going there. That's what I'm doing. First of all,
what men do.
Yeah, first off, let me rewind. I walked out of an undergraduate class to go do this because I was like, this is fucking boring. I don't feel like being here. The war was coming. This is like January 2003. I knew what was, going to happen within a few months. Was going to be the Vietnam era or generation, Vietnam of my generation, of our generation. I was like, I want to go get some of that and blow some shit up and play in the mud. So left class, walked to the recruiter's office because it was right by the university I was at, and went into the Navy office. And when the guy came to shake my hand, he didn't give me like a formal traditional handshake. He gave me like a cool, or I don't know, casual kind of handshake.
The Navy guy?
Dab it up?
Yeah. Like not with a pound, but just like, yo, what's up, man? Like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't really like that. And he was like, hey, do you want to sit down and talk? I was like, yeah, I'll be right back, man. And I went into the Marines office. And as soon as I go in there, the guy's like, hey, what's going on, hard charger? And just boom, like solid, firm, break my hand handshake. And I was like, that's it. This is where I'm going.
Yeah. I'm not a violent man, or at least I'm a tame version of a violent man. But if someone shakes my hands where they crunch the tip of your fingers and don't grab that meat of the palm, someone's going to die. And I hate that.
I hate that.
It usually is such these little fucking beta bitches that get a hold of your fingers and just crunch you right there. And I'm like, you're fucking dead. You know how you avoid that? You're dead to me. What?
You turn it sideways. So if you turn it, if they're really digging in on you, you turn it sideways and then
turn them belly up.
Yeah. Or yeah. You go like that. Then they can't get the wedge on you.
Total change of subjects, but it's aligned with what we're saying. I studied this whole thing on how politicians and assertive people in power, like the power handshake is over the top.
For the dominance.
Yeah, for the dominance. And dominance. Like, you just got to study people like that. But so this guy gave you the meaty handshake. He gave you a solid one, and you're like, this is it. These are my people.
Yep, straight up. And that's what I based the decision on. And I started signing the papers just a few minutes after that. Now, my father was also a Marine. I never had pressure from him to join the Marine Corps. I would say that I certainly looked up to that and thought it was cool, but I never had any family pressure. If anything, they encouraged me not to go into the military and to go to school and get an education first. But, being a good child, didn't listen to my parents and did exactly the opposite.
I went and spent the weekend in Detroit, Michigan. My grandfather just turned 93.
Happy birthday.
This man's capacity is that of 10x, all three of us combined. He can read a 300 to 400 page book in an hour. Was the editor of the Pontiac, I think it's called the Oakland Press, which was basically the biggest, the paper for the biggest city in the world at the time, Detroit, when it was like really in its boom era. This guy was just a freak. He was in the military and he did counterintelligence, went over to Germany and was doing spy material on other spies post World War II. And we were downstairs flipping through all of his stuff and reading all of these Secret Service books from back in the day in the 1950s. And it's just interesting. Like, I know you just said your dad was in the Marines, your uncle was in the Navy. I don't know how much it is on top of your family, but our grandfather never talks about it. I don't know if he's covering up something. I don't know if your family's that way. You talk about the Marines like it's one of the first notes that you come up to, but I don't know why older generations of people like just don't mention it.
My father never mentioned anything to me about it until I came back. It was either when I came back from boot camp or right before I left. Was the first time he ever talked to me about anything about it.
Was he in Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
Heavy.
Yeah. He didn't mention anything as a child. I mean, I knew of his career, of course, from pictures and stuff on the wall, but like never talked about it. And then I think it was the night before I left, he sat down and told me a few things and just basically encouraged me and, welcome to the brotherhood, and then off I went.
Did you ever deploy?
I did. I went to Okinawa in 2006 with what's called the Marine Expeditionary Unit. So like we have these things that go around globally every year and several times a year to kind of keep presence in certain parts of the world. A lot of times there's training exercises or counter training exercises involved where we're doing like things with the Filipino Marines or the Indonesians or the Thais or the Australians. We're doing like joint task force exercises. And if needed, joint task force combat a la, you know, in OIF and OEF for Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. So for us, it was go to Okinawa, venture around throughout the Pacific, stops in Indonesia and bits in the Philippines. And we were actually looking for Abu Sayyaf, Islamic terrorist cells that were kind of going through the predominantly Catholic Philippines and impressing Islamic terrorism on some of the kind of rural parts of the land. And we were doing training exercises with the Filipino army at the same time, trying to look for these guys. Never found them, of course, but humping around in the jungles sucks.
So you should read about Chesty Puller.
I should read about Chesty Puller. You should fucking read more about Chesty Puller.
I'm just double checking. If you haven't,
how many Navy crosses does he have?
5.
Impressive. Yeah. How many non-judicial punishment charges does he have? How many courts martial does he have?
I think they tried to.
Anyway, Chesty's famous for saying, "You're not a Marine unless you've been NJP'd or had proceedings of a non-judicial punishment," meaning that Marines are supposed to get in trouble. They're supposed to go against the grain. They're supposed to bang their heads against the wall. You know, being too clean is not being a Marine in Chesty's eyes. So a lot of the Marines that were saltier and more on the grungy side of tradition always heeded the call of Chesty. His house actually just got sold or just got listed in Virginia. In Virginia, yeah.
Dude, it's sad. You know, the end of his biography, it just talks about how, you know, that generation of the ideal Marine was being kind of aged out, and the suits were starting to run the military more so than the actual Marines or soldiers, whatever term you want to use. And the amount of field experience that most of these people had was no value. So when you got into war, like you have a bunch of people that have read books about war but never have been in war. So it's just like, you know, honestly, a book can teach you a lesson, but it's never going to feel like being in war. Like, you know, hey, I could tell you what a sunburn feels like, but until you have one, you don't know what a sunburn feels like. So basically it was sad. Like you can see his like heartbreak of just how there was a shift and people of his, like everybody in the Marines loved him, but the hierarchy of the Marines hated him near the end, hated him, or just didn't see value for him at the end because he was just too much of a bulldog.
Yep. Is that the book you read? You recently read?
Yeah.
That's great, man. Chesty's the fucking man. My roommate and I actually had a framed picture of him in our barracks room. That was on one of our nightstands. So like when we would get inspected for field day or cleanliness of the barracks room, that was the first thing the inspectors, who were usually a very high ranking senior enlisted person, that's the guy, would see that and just be like, God, it's like having a picture of Jesus Christ, you know? But for us, we love Chesty, but at the same time, we knew that it would be a, wow, these guys really love the Marine Corps kind of distraction to anyone inspecting us. Yeah. And it was, which is good, but
these boys
it's a cyclical
classic
thing.
Marines.
Exactly. What do we need to clean and check? They look great. But that's the cyclical kind of nature of not just the Marine Corps, but life in general, but especially in the Marine Corps, because from Chesty's era, preceding the Vietnam War, you had that lull in action. So what people were washing out from Korea and then before Vietnam, how are they going to train new coming troops if they don't have combat experience and they're learning just on anecdotal or educational, you know, backgrounds? Same thing after Vietnam, you know, get the dip in the Cold War, little bits of things in Kosovo and whatnot in Eastern Europe and some stuff in South America. But we didn't have another real combative experience until Desert Storm, and Desert Storm was so brief and short. And then the next thing we had was OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom. So now my friends that are all just recently retiring, I was at a retirement ceremony last year for a buddy of mine that just finished his 20 years. Almost the exact same things you were just saying about Chesty. He was a badass senior enlisted special operations command Marine, a MARSOC guy, a raider, the coolest of the cool, the baddest of the bad.
Yeah.
And he saw the same politics, the same, you know, writing on the wall, the same, you're too salty, you're too grungy, you're too rough and tough. And he was saying the same thing now about who's going to be teaching these guys about combat. We don't have a war now to be fighting. We don't have people recycling to be able to teach what was learned out there in theater. So it's repetitive, man. You know, whether it was 50 years ago, 70 years ago, or like I said, less than a year ago, it keeps happening up and down. That's the dips and, you know, cycle of war and not being at war.
Well, this is something I wanted to ask you. I mean, maybe my terminology is wrong on this, but it may play into where you're at now and kind of the development that you're doing with yourself and other people. Do you feel that there was any kind of PTSD involved with the work that you did, even though you didn't see war, but maybe just because of the alignment and with the lifestyle that you had at such an intense level, being over there in those positions and then coming back to normal life? Was there a big shift for you? Or like, I know afterwards you come back, you're in Louisiana, you're a bartender, just having fun. Like, was there a culture shock to the point where like you just had a hard time being a civilian or a regular person after all the development you had gone through?
100,000%.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's not like a 9-to-5 job where you go there, you punch in and you punch out and you leave it there, right? It's 24/7 every day for 4 years. You know, everywhere you are, whether you're in camis, whether you're in your uniform, whether you're deployed, you're a Marine the whole time. So it never turns off. And you're told that constantly about like, hey, remember, you're always an ambassador for the Marine Corps. You're always an ambassador for the Marine Corps, even outside of work. So it never leaves you. That identity is thick. Don't get me wrong, I was very proud of it. But when you're in charge of millions or at times billions of dollars of national assets by way of when I was working in Kings Bay, Georgia, we were doing Trident missile onloads and offloads. So for ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles on submarines, where we would onload and offload them, working alongside like Lockheed Missiles and Space contractors for only 2 sub docks in the country that do this, one in the East Coast, one on the West Coast, to take these missiles on and off. And I was running the main security either at the wharf or within what was called the limited area where we stored and housed the nukes. And I was like fucking 19 years old, 20 years old, in charge of all this, coordinating these, running the convoy, talking to the contractors, making sure everything was going right and smooth. And then come home or leave work and you can't have a beer because you're not 21, you know, and then you get out and then you can't have a job because you don't have a college degree or you don't have enough experience in life or the profession that would prefer you to have. That was confusing for sure. And then when everything that you're taught is about absolute speed, volume, and intensity with perfect adherence, zero fallibility, and should you err, death is the likely result, not just of yourself, but of people around you. Dude, it makes life fucking tough. Absolutely. Not just for you, but for the people around you. Like patience with friends, patience with family, a relationship, a girlfriend, fucking forget about that.
Yeah.
My readjustment to civilian normalcy was terrible. And that's why when I found the bar, it was like the best, worst place for me to be.
You're like, I can pour cups better than anybody.
And I can fucking medicate with all this liquid courage.
It's interesting. I keep on having this dialogue with people. Like I was having it this morning. We went to McDonald's. Normal ritual out here.
It's a great start. Great start to the story.
Which, by the way, is no longer the quick and easy. Well, it's quick, it's easy, but it's no longer cheap.
No, it's not.
4 little egg burritos and 2 medium-sized orange juices was almost $20.
Who's trying to get hit? Nobody fucking gets one over on Ryan like that. Who you think you is?
Damn. I was like, all right, I'll do it. McDonald's just showed up on the corner. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's have
my card's in my hand. It's ready to swipe. I can't hold back at this moment.
I ordered and I was like,
this juncture is designed for me to succeed. Yeah.
Is it Kobe beef in the burritos now?
Yeah, I was like, what just happened?
Wagyu.
Yeah, or like fucking organic,
beef.
range-free eggs or what?
Yeah, could be. So my buddy Ras, he and I are competing in this event overseas coming up, and I'm just driving around. We're having coffee, and I just start to mention to him, and it pops up every like couple weeks or months where I'm just thinking about the exchange of retiring, and I'm like, I just don't know what that's going to be like for me because I am so good at going to war. Like if you give me, you're like, Hunter, we're going to war. Like I immediately go into the other room and I start sharpening my axe. I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm going to do it better than anybody else. And I'm going to forget about everybody else. And I'm just going to do that thing as hard as I possibly can. And it's a part of who I am. And I've intentionally put 35 years old as my limit. Like, I'm done. I'm done because I have to put this healthy exit strategy. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on doing laps around the track, you know? So I want to get out, and I'm just thinking about what it's going to be like to come into normal life, because I had this gap between my world championship and back to where I'm training heavily now for about 6 months. And without me even knowing it, I was depressed. And I'm not like a depressed based person, but I just wasn't elevated. I'm normally always elevated. And now I'm back into this heavy training again. And it would kill most people. Like yesterday, my cousin Alex, we went for a bike ride that was, I think, 42 miles.
It wasn't a bike ride. It was 50-mile bike ride.
Yeah. It only came to 42 miles. We had to cut it short because everyone else was starting to die off. But it's 42 miles and 5,500 feet of climbing. To me, that's like brushing my teeth in the morning. I'm like, this is it. I was like, this is my method.
Yeah,
and
just burn them.
I felt so good, and it was killing other people. And I just like, I don't know what it's going to be like waking up in the morning and not having that. So that's the gap that I was asking you. And it leads me into my next piece. So you go into the bar, and obviously I don't think there's many people in this world that are sitting there and they're like, my pinnacle version of myself is being a bartender. So I'm assuming you had higher aspirations. And as I look at it, you went and you got your degree. Part of it was in fashion. Let me get the exact details on this thing. You got a degree in fashion and business.
Yep.
And, you know, where did all of a sudden fashion and business come together? Because typically men wearing camo boots with tight haircuts don't go into fashion, especially boys from Louisiana.
Oh, dude, boy, you couldn't be more true. Couldn't be more right, rather, on that. I spent 5 years at the bar. I was undergrad studying history at LSU. I got 130 something credit hours, but didn't have a diploma because I didn't really go to class much. I didn't do much at school. So I left eventually after 5 years, found my way into the oil field. Knew nothing about oil and gas, but I had a friend of mine.
Were you on the oil rigs?
Yeah, I worked offshore in the Gulf and in West Texas and in eastern New Mexico. Zero experience, mind you. But a friend of mine was like, dude, I know you're looking for work. They love veterans. You can figure it out. It's similar kind of to the military hierarchical rank structure. There's English, but it's not really English, and it's mostly male, and it's outside, and you fly to work in a helicopter. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like I could do all that. It's pretty familiar.
No big
deal. I did. Yeah, and it was great. It's fucking dangerous. You got to wear protective equipment. There were a lot of parallels. I loved it. It was fun. It was almost 2 years worth of doing that. Then I got laid off when the price per barrel plummeted in like 2015. So how did I get back into school? Well, when I lost my job, I freaked out. I was starting to push 30, and I just felt ageism really.
I need fashion in my life.
I needed something, man. And my girlfriend at the time was like, you should go to school in FIT. You should go to FIT. She was from New York. I didn't even know what fucking FIT was. Okay. And we were talking about moving in together and living together and going back to the city and da-da-da. And so I took
women have a way of doing this to you. Us,
you know, sometimes it's good to listen to the right things when they come to you at the right time in your life. And a lot of mine actually have come from girlfriends. And this was one of them for sure. And she was like, you should go there. We ended up breaking up. I still followed the idea. And I was living in Mexico with my family, kind of getting my feet back under me and working with my uncle, the former Navy guy. And he has been designing and manufacturing furniture in a small little rural mountain town in the state of Michoacan for like 30 years. And so while I was working with him, narco territory.
Wakanda forever.
So Michoacan, quick interjection, produces 30% of the entire world's avocados. Noted. So I go down there, and everything I'm doing with him is commerce, compliance, trade, international business, a little bit of design, da-da-da-da. So I look at degree programs at FIT, and I found international trade and marketing for fashion at their business school. And I was like, perfect. Let's do that one. So that's how I got into that.
Now,
so you didn't go into it with the hopes of like being the next Gucci designer.
No, but I did end up working for Ralph Lauren right out of school.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Impressive.
But in compliance, not in the cool stuff. You know, like that's where it all kind of went. Like I was on this high.
How many? Go ahead.
First off, I had no money left. This was my last chance, and they sent me several application denied letters. And I was like, fuck, I got to get into this school. So finally I called them and I was like, what's it going to take? What do I have to do to come there to get into this program? Da, 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 da. Well, you could come to school as a non-matriculating student. And if you did well enough, maybe after a couple of semesters, we'll admit you and you can take full courses. Da, 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 da. I was like, so if I come there and make straight A's for a semester, maybe 2 at the most, would you? Well, it's very bold and ambitious of you. If I come there and make straight, yes, in theory. I was like, I'll see you in fucking January.
And I'm planning on doing the same thing with Harvard, by the way.
Dude, that was November 2015 or August 2015. I went up there, got my shit together. January came and I was 21 hours of class, rocking and rolling. And sure enough, the whole time I was there, every semester, minimum 18 hours up to 27 hours one semester, or 28, 20, 24, 27, I forget. Straight A's the whole way, nothing less than a 94 because anything under that would have been an A-. I finished second out of 2,000 people, graduated salutatorian. My parents were like, what the fuck? Where has this been? All of our lives and time. You needed to go to the highest.
You're sitting there with a needle. You're like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to sew
it
shit
was
out
not
of
bad.
team.
But dude, talk about being a fish out of water. Like you said, straight male, above military veteran, worked in a bar, worked in the oil field, assumed to be Republican, not your typical FIT student.
I want to bring fashion back to the Creole people. This is my mission. This is my agenda. Dude, you will not stop me.
It was a trip. I had no idea. People were like, dude, are you like banging all the girls there? Is it awesome? Honestly, it was far more awkward being me because I was that much of a minority. It was a total flip on my own head. And as good as the academics were, the social education was 1,000 times fucking better. And then I found my way into Ralph Lauren as a compliance officer. Love the company, love the culture, still do. But reading audits and being binary and stuck in a terminal is not good for me. So I did not last very long there.
I did Soul Cycle teacher training and class of like 15, 20 people. And I was the only straight guy. There was one other guy, but he just like, for some reason, didn't really interact with me that much, even though it was a small class. So I'm around, all the instructors are female, all the teachers are gay or female. And it was one of the most awkward times of my life. Like, because they're like, Hunter, where's your soul? And I was like, I'm a fucking spin instructor. There's no soul. I clip in, I teach a ride. People love it. You hired me. I was like, I didn't come to you. You came to me. And God, I used to just like, it would be a fight. This woman, Janet, she was the one who ran the whole thing. She would just dig me out all the fucking time. It's like, get your teeth off my ass cheeks, Janet. I'm trying to just learn this process.
I like teeth marks on the ass cheeks. That can be nice.
No, dude, she was gnawing off chunks. She wasn't nibbling. She was gnawing. And I got chewed out all the fucking time. And I can only imagine that was only like a 3-month program. You went through years of this process, but it was fish out of water, dude. Like I'm just like a straight macho boy who's trying to be an athlete, spin instructor, and all these people. We're going to dance classes. They're like, now walk down and show us the way you move your body. And I was like, I will walk a straight line for you, no more, no less. I was like, if you tell me to do it fast, I will do it faster, but I will not put sauce on top of this bun.
Dude, honestly, as much as it was turned me kind of into an introvert, it also just made me an incredible observer. Because now I was like, oh, this is kind of what it feels like to be them. Yeah. You know, like this is what it feels like to be the only. And so it gave me like a new perspective of empathy for people, you know, men and women, to just be like, I need
to go to fashion school because I'm
terrible
at that.
It was fucking humbling to say the least. And not to mention, I did put my Marine kind of cap back on in the sense of like, this is my place to protect. You know, I was like, there ain't gonna be no fucking active shooter in this place as long as I'm here. And I was like, I know I'm the only one that's gonna do something about it. So it took this like,
no one's gonna steal this silk.
Yeah, dude. I was like, these people have no one else to defend them. If it's got to be me, you know. So that's also what I thought about.
So, how many years was this before you and I met?
I don't know, just a couple. I graduated from there in 2017, 16.
And when I met you, you were doing modeling and real estate, or just modeling?
Both. And I just was still finishing bodybuilding stuff. I was still doing that too. Yeah. So both fitness and modeling here and there, real estate and still bodybuilding. Yeah.
So when I first met Jake, he was an interesting character. It was this combination of a deck of cards that you would not like assume. You know, this dude was from Louisiana, a Marine, just finished fashion, was doing modeling, and was doing real estate, and now wanted to be in like the fitness, like, you know, actually be like in the fitness instructing world. So it's like, it's just, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like all of these things. He's dating this smoking hot German model girl. And we go out. This is one of the most fucked up stories of my life. I'm going to try to abbreviate this, and I'm not going to bring up all of the details. But
it's nothing illegal.
Abbreviated and edited.
You can do it.
So
can I just say, Jake, before you get into this, that you've done a great job of like losing. There's a very distinct Louisiana accent, and without you saying, "Hey, this boy's from Louisiana," I would have no idea. Like, I don't know how to do it, but I don't hear Louisiana in your voice at all. All right.
What's the name? What's the name of the city you're from?
New Orleans.
Okay, that's it right there. Every time he says New Orleans, like I see New Orleans or New Orleans, like
Orleans.
No, I don't know what it is.
I grew up in the city, you know. I didn't, and it's funny. New Orleans is like this bastard child of expression and eclectic funk and gay and vibrant and tattooed and weird. And it's surrounded by the ultra conservative southern state of Louisiana. So most of the rest of the state would probably speak in an accent of which you would more so consider to be Louisianian, whereas in the city, it's not so much. And that's probably what, between that and then being on, you know, outside the home since I was 17, probably diluted it down pretty well. If I start drinking, though, Hunter can probably attest, I start dropping my R's and the slang comes out for sure. So be mindful of that.
Go Tigers.
So I'll go back to the story that still to this day has me shaking in my boots. Jake and I meet up. We go to have breakfast. His girlfriend comes to meet up with us with her other friend. And they're like, hey, my twin sister's coming to town too, and we're all going to go out to dinner. And I was like, perfect. So I think we went to Nobu.
Yeah, downtown.
And really nice restaurant. 5 minutes before we get there, Jake and I are walking up. We're having a blast. He's like, oh, shoot, my girlfriend's not going to be able to make it, but her twin sister's still coming. And I was like, whatever, you know. So we go, we sit down. We have like 15 courses, and we're drinking a fair amount, and we started to get into some like pretty deep and wild stories. And I'm just sitting there and being like, whatever, dude, like, cool. We're just living life, telling crazy stories. And, you know, first of all, the twin sister looks exactly like Yanina, like exactly, but with jet black hair, with bangs and jet black hair. And I was like, wow, this is like spot on, a mirror image. Now, I don't know the girlfriend that well, so this leads into my next piece. We get home, and they just, during the night, they're like talking to me, like, have you ever tried Hape? And I was like, no. They're like, oh, it's kind of this like kind of more ceremonial tobacco type product that you take, and it kind of puts you into like a big mental head spin. And it's like, we like to do it sometimes. And I was like, I'm up for anything. So we get back to the house, and, you know, these two smoking hot
21-year-old Hunter.
No, dude, this is 28-year-old Hunter. Like I've got like a pretty busy career. Like I'm booming at the time.
This is only like 4 years ago, if even. Yeah.
I'm climbing up the ladder of success in this world. So like, you know, whatever. I speak openly about my experiences or whatever I've dabbled in my life, but whatever. So we get in there. These two smoking hot babes who just kind of look over at us. We're like, we're gonna take a shower, and I was like, of course, hot babes shower together, and so they go into the bathroom and shower, and Jake's like, yo, let's do that Hape. And I was like, okay. So you put it like this ground up material inside of a pipe. I stick one part of the pipe in my nose, and Jake blows it into my brain, like rocket ships it into my fucking skull. I hit this thing, and I'm like, like I am in outer space, and I'm high as a kite. So fucking high. I'm like, whoa. And the girls are still showering, and then they come out.
Mind you, there was, again, a good amount of booze beforehand. So
yeah,
to get a combination is quite something.
Everything's all mixed up here. So the girls come out of the shower, and they're kind of like in these robes looking all sexy, kind of drying themselves off. And I'm high as a kite. And I'm like, Jesus, you look so much like Yanina. It's startling. She's like,
who's my girlfriend?
Yeah.
Or was my girlfriend at the time.
And she's like, yeah, I am Yanina, dude. We've been lying to you the entire night. And I'm like, what? Wait, huh? And I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? And I was like, I'm out of here. I literally pick up my jacket, I bust out of the room, and I leave them. And I'm so fucking high. I'm like, I can't tell if I'm losing my shit. I can't tell if I am completely in outer space, if any of these people are real, if they're lying to me. What is real in this moment? And I didn't talk to Jake for like a couple months after that, basically. I was out of it. And I was like, I have never been in such like a Twilight Zone moment where like all of a sudden I'm like looking all around me. I'm like, this is all the Matrix. And to this day, I still am pretty startled by that moment. I'm like, anytime I go out to dinner with people, I pull their hair real quick. I'm like, it's just a fucking wig.
So your girlfriend, you were in on the joke. What was the setup beforehand going into this? Like, is my good friend Hunter?
He has no good fucking explanation for that either.
I don't remember, to be honest. I think it was their idea for sure, you know. And Yanina, who was my girlfriend, her friend was coming to dinner with us, and I don't remember if it was like us trying to set her up with Hunter or to like coordinate something like that, and then somehow the sister idea came up, and she's like, yeah, like, let's do it. It's so much fun. I just have to put on my wig. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. I don't care. You know, I'll play along. But it was pretty funny.
Both those girls could have tried to jump on me naked at the same time, and I would have fucking still ran. I was like, this is what's happening.
I mean, they knew what they were doing for sure. You know, like, dude, they knew, like, hey, we're just going to take a shower. And they're both like thick German accent, beautiful blondes. Like, you would have thought like this can't be real. What the fuck is going on? You know? So
I lost my goddamn mind. Okay, so
good
enough
times,
of that.
Eh? Good time.
The best. I love that story. So fast forward, you know, you dabble in real estate, you're in the training business, you got all this kind of stuff on, and I think probably like when I saw you maybe just before COVID hit, you were really getting in like heavily on bodybuilding. And you were doing all natural. And I think at that point, you were also completely carnivore. You were probably like 6% body fat most of the time that I saw you. And you were starting to have this kind of transformation where it seemed like you were separating from chapter 1s and 2s of your life into this like really big gap, almost a new book almost of a transformation of yourself. And you're getting really heavily into training. It seemed like you were getting really heavily into mindset stuff. You were one of the first people that I know, which is impressive because I've been on a similar arc. It seemed like you started to remove yourself from this like hot happening fitness scene of everybody is like having sex with each other and like trying to like build their brand. And everyone's like, I'm so cool. And all of a sudden you just were like, I'm removing myself from the board. And you all of a sudden you stopped dating. You stopped drinking. You stopped entertaining yourself with just like randomly showing up to parties full of people that you don't fucking know and don't really care about just to say that you were there. And like this narrative of which I've had a really hard time removing myself from. It's like, you know, oh my God, there's a fucking party and there's supermodels going to be there. Like, I can't help myself.
That was a tough one.
And you started saying this stuff and I was like, yeah, whatever, Jake, you're a pussy. And I didn't really mean that, but I'm just like, you were ahead of the curve. I didn't see what was around the bend. I didn't know it was around the bend, and you were already on the other side of it. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck this dude's talking about. You were reading like 2 or 3 books a week at the time. You had completely gone into this like stoic form of transformation, almost like a monk mode. And then you and I saw each other a little bit during COVID, and I'm not trying to skip over things, but then all of a sudden,
that was great too in Austin. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And then all of a sudden, that was just a brief interaction, but then there was like this massive shift where all of a sudden now I started to catch up with you. Like, you know, we talked, shoot the shit. I remember you and I had like an hour-long conversation I was running in London last year, and you were telling me that you had just started your Life Like Jake coaching business. And I didn't even know the gravity that you'd grown it till this point. And you and I talked just recently, and now you are completely removed from real estate. You're completely removed from all other kind of incomes, opportunities, and focal points. And you are I don't even know the way to describe it, but you have an entire coaching business around this mindset and lifestyle that you've created. Like that shirt, Life Like Jake.
Just like the shirt. God, man, it's crazy to hear it like that.
It
with
was
the
like
notes.
that. Spot on.
It's amazing. I mean, again, back to the beginning
Very
of
detailed
our
summary.
talk, Hunter able to rip it just like on the show, just like in the, in Tough Mudder, able to go first take and not miss a beat. It's amazing. But yeah, man, I just looked at my life, just like you said, when we were there in New York, 2018, 2019, and the advent and kind of inception of a lot of these things that were going on in fitness, whether it was this specific gym or this specific company and brand with gear and clothes, or, this app that was coming out, or this piece of equipment that everybody was trying to get the casting for. I just knew so many of these people, and I looked at them and was like, the majority of you are fucking frauds.
By the way, I've been trying to term this recently, and the only thing that I can really think of is low-hanging fruit. Or an analogy that I've been using recently, and I really want you to have your comment on this, but just hear me out and it will maybe guide some of the conversation. I've been saying, if you sit at the corner of a beach and you take a net and drag it across the water, you're going to pick up all the dumb minnows that are just sitting there and they're just easy to catch. And then if you get a rod, you're going to start casting and you're going to start really playing the game. And then if you really want the big fish, you need to be like Old Man the Sea. You need to fucking go out into the water, the deep water, and you need to cast lines for hours, if not days, and miss a bunch, and then all of a sudden hook that hog that is going to be a defining point of your life. And I've been digging into this, and I want you to tell us your version of it, because you were the person, as I said, who was ahead of the curve that I look up to. So go ahead, tell us all about it.
I just saw what I was basically in the mirror and what I was surrounded by. Jim Rohn talking about you being the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that really hit me because I evaluated who I was spending the most time with and then correlated that with how I felt and where I saw myself in life. Well, that's not good. Well, let's see what happens if I change this. So how am I going to start that? Well, I'm going to surround myself with no one. I'm going to absorb myself with knowledge, to the books you kind of talked about. I said, why are there all these books? I live in New York. I have the New York Public Library. Like, all these secrets of the world are just hidden here. And then one day I just started plowing through books and started to realize, like, for someone to take the time to write down things that are basically their dream, their obsession, something that they believe in, worth leaving their families and their spouses for, abandoning their children, all sorts of hope or financial, whatever, to get a message out, it's like, they're probably worth reading. And some of these things have been around for a millennial. Like, how old are some of the oldest texts? My God. And so I started reading books. I started watching less TV. I started listening less to them and to they and listening more to myself, because it's something I hadn't done in a long time, because I had that inferiority complex. I had this facade about me thinking that I needed the flashy clothes, the cool name brand shit, all the consumerism, the materialism, and everything else that was surrounding myself with, to insulate my own insecurities or to mask them. And as I started to strip away those things, I started to feel differently. So to me, I looked at a lot of these people around me that I saw as, like I said, frauds or just dipshits and douchebags and bimbos, charlatans for sure. And I was like,
snake oil.
If this industry, if this industry thinks these people are cool, I don't want to fucking be part of it, because I know who these people really are. And if they're able to slip through the cracks and put on their masks and be accepted as, godly, I don't want to be a part of this. So I'm going to go this way.
It is interesting when you get into some of these pipelines and you work your way so hard to get to the top of the top, like, rung of the ladder, and you get up there and you're like, this is a dog shit person. And usually the people you meet at the bottom rung of the ladder are these authentic, beautiful people. And what happens is they keep on climbing, is they have to keep on changing themselves to be able to get to that next rung, to the point where they lose almost all of their authenticity and, like, that bright light that's inside of them. And now they just become this mechanical beast of just a shell of a human being at the top.
It's like First Blood Stallone to Rambo 3 Stallone.
First Blood Stallone was so great. He's like, I'm going in this fucking cave. Come get me.
First Blood is like he's
I'm
so
flying
peaceful.
3 helicopters at once,
what
and I'm
the fuck? It's like
you.
he's all yoked and juiced out, and like in the first one, he's so peaceful. He has like 5 lines before the big monologue at the end, and he's just stoic, humble, angelic, civil, and just there, present. And then by the end of it, yeah, he's this huge thing flying fucking helicopters and running tanks into stuff. It's like, no, man, go back to that traditionalism, right? And for me, dude, it was realizing that the Marine Corps gave me an identity, and it's something I didn't have as a kid and something that I'd lost even as a younger child. And when I lost that, getting out and returning as a civilian, I was scrounging looking for it. That's why I worked at the bar. That's why I worked in the oil field. That's why I worked for Ralph Lauren. That's why I worked in real estate, because I was looking for an identity, thinking that I needed something out there for it. And just over time, and even back into fishing and fashion and fitness, excuse me, I thought that's what I needed. That was my identity too. And I started to build another identity around this bodybuilder, and especially as a natural one, and like, fuck you to all the guys that were using stuff and substances, you know what I mean? Like, and I got it stigmatic about it.
And
so
still, weird.
It was like not the right thing to do, because I was still going outside as opposed to like embracing myself, and I was hiding with all these layers around me. So as I started to peel these layers away, I started to realize, like, dude, it's about me. It's always been about you and your individuality, your self-actualization, your autonomy, right? That's what the beginning of self-mastery is. And to what you're talking about, the rungs on the ladder, and why, those guys and gals at the bottom, they seem to get along, because it hit me that it's not about accomplishments. It's not about the medals. It's about the fucking suffering.
Yeah.
And that's what self-mastery is about. That's what the greatness of being, as you can attest to, being a multi-time world champ and all the fucking cool shit you've done, dude. It's not about the podium moments. Those are great. But the shit that makes you who you are, and like you talking about chasing that next thing, what are you going to do? It's the work. It's the suffering. And that is what the road to self-mastery is paved in. It's paved in fucking suffering. And once I had that like aha moment, I said, fuck these guys, fuck their comforts, fuck all their cool shit. Like, I'm going to find the hard route.
Dude,
and
it's funny that you say that.
Inside.
I have this, I go on these big workouts. Usually the weightlifting ones, I never think of anything that smart, because I'm just a fucking thug. But when I go on these really big, like, mountain runs and bike rides, these things just cycle through my head. And I'm going up one of the hardest parts of our ride yesterday, and I was like, man, I'm in it again. Like, here I am on my 12th season, and I'm just beating myself to the point. I was getting nosebleeds. I was deadlifting so much the other day, I started getting nosebleeds, and I was biking so hard the next day, that the capillaries were just pumping up, and I started pissing blood out of my nose. And I said to myself, I hurt myself to heal myself.
Oh, yeah.
And
dude, love it.
It's one of those kind of things that I thought about, and it's like, truly, and I've also said this a long time, is like, you don't know the highest highs until you know the lowest lows. Like, you have to find these deep catacombs of who you are as a person, and you can't just let that stuff like dust settle over top of it. You have to like clear it out, really dig in deep to it, and then really see what resonates with you there, and then come back out, and then go back in, and then come back out, and then go back in. And if you think about it, like, they take people when they're in trouble and they put them into solitary confinement. So
I literally was talking about this on a podcast the other day.
Yeah. But they put people into solitary confinement
as punishment.
As punishment. But to the wise man, dude. To the strong man, to the deep man,
it's heaven. It's heaven. It's paradise.
And it's so hard to be in that place, though, dude, because in reality, how easy is it for you and I right now to get off this phone and just go into our iPhone and go on Instagram and find some girl with curves in all the right places and say, why don't you come over to me and distract me for the rest of the fucking day? Why don't I just call my friends and get into one of my sports cars and just drive around in circles as fast as I can? All of these things are luxuries of life, but they are also vices of life, you know? Yeah. And like, if you allow yourself to dig deep and allow yourself to really just throw yourself into these things, you lose the focal point. It's almost like a kite without a string attached to anything. You're just flying away wherever the wind will take you. I want to bring up something, though, where you were talking about the whole identity crisis thing. I'm from New York City. In New York City on the East Coast, what's the main thing you ask somebody when you first get to know them?
Where do you work? Where do you live?
Okay. What do you do? And what part of town are you in? Okay.
And then where do you work out?
Yeah. Okay. Now in California, what's the first thing that you ask somebody?
Ooh, it's you know, I only lived in Southern California for a few years, but let's
just see if you can guess it.
What's your diet?
No.
How did you vote? Oh, nice.
Who do you know? So the alignment in California versus the alignment in the East Coast is so aligned with what do you do for a living, and like where do you jock in position next to me? Even though you are trying to create similarities in the conversation, you want to find a way to connect with this person. Truly, it's just it's a gut check. Like, hey,
yeah,
what do you really do? Like, oh,
it's a dick measure.
I'm in finance. What kind of finance? Oh, I'm in private equity. What kind of private equity?
It's a dick measure.
Yeah. So, but in California, you sit down, you start talking to people, and they can't help themselves but just tell you who they know or who they're associated with. You're like, oh, well, I was actually at that restaurant the other day with such and such football player.
So it's just a bunch of name dropping
all the time.
Hey.
Now, the thing that's interesting is when you really get to know somebody, like I get in trouble for this all the time. I say, what do you like to do? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what kind of person are you? What the fuck do you do with your life? Like, I don't know how to know what you do 9 to 5. That's what you do to get paid. What do you like to do? Who the fuck are you? If you come into my house, you can find out pretty quickly what I like to do. I've got mushrooms in the corner of my house. I have a didgeridoo and a bunch of axes. Like,
which plays the didgeridoo a lot.
I do play the didgeridoo a lot. I'm getting good. I'm getting good. What can I say?
It's a fucking cool instrument.
Yeah, so I mean, in reality, dude, like it's hard to find truly the character and what kind of person someone is these days because there's all of these clouds that they put over top of it, so you never really have to see who the fuck they are.
100%.
And in reality, like I mean, I guess that's not the worst thing in the entire world, but in the path of self-development, I think these things need to be talked about more often. And I've even gotten to the point where it's silly that I have a podcast. I can't listen to podcasts anymore because I don't think anybody's talking about anything new anymore. They're all just listening to Joe Rogan or sitting at a coffee table and hearing what somebody else listened to on Joe Rogan. And then that's their dialogue. Nobody's doing any of this deep work shit or trying to read or get something out of these pages. And not to say like, oh, I'm cooler than you because I've been on the process longer, but it is interesting, and I'm really glad that you found the path that you're on now because I think it is better to have men. We don't need any more Marines, no offense, but we do.
We love the military. We support the military. We support the boys in blue.
No, I'm not saying that really like we don't need military. I think Marines are great. Like, you know, I have a military-inspired business that I work on now.
He means the supply is steady. It's a sure thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a sure and steady supply.
There's never going to be a shortage of 18-year-old boys that want to hold guns and wear camo outfits. Right. Like, but to see somebody like you basically have this really paved road, like there's been a million real estate agents. There's been a million people in fashion. There's been a million Marines. There's been a million fitness instructors, and you can follow that path very easily. And you could probably get pretty good at it. You already were. But then all of a sudden you're like, I'm out. So tell us about some of the things that like some of your daily rituals and some of the things that you're personally working on right now with yourself. And then some of the things that you're working on, you don't have to give us a specific client, but like some of the things that anyone who's listening to this could really start to develop on their own. And then maybe even potentially want to reach out and work with you.
Yeah, man. I mean, the beauty of the work is that everything I teach, everything I impress is what I still practice myself habitually, right? So nothing that I have or ask of any people, clients wise, is not something that I still don't currently do or haven't done throughout my almost life, you know, especially since my own beginning of self-actualization. And what is that? Like, let's define these big words, you know, autonomous, self-actualization, individualism, self-mastery. It's belief. It's understanding your innate gifts as a human being, right? And realizing the potential that all of us have, each one of us has a brilliance inside of us. But just like you were kind of talking about, Hunter, there's these layers. I call them carbon, similar to a diamond. that gets layered on top of us through circumstance, environment, commitments, stress, life, kids, family, work, whatever. And we get darker and darker and darker, and that brilliance gets lighter and lighter and lighter. We're not able to see it. We're not able to feel it. We're not able to believe it. So what I do with people mainly is that I'm not Yoda. I don't sell a fucking product. I have nothing for you to buy tangibly. That the shirts aren't for sale. People are like, can I get one of those shirts? They're earned and they're given out, but I don't make them. I don't manufacture them, and I'm certainly not trying to turn a profit on them. But what I do is help people to remove blocks from their vision of their own paths to self-actualization, autonomy, and self-mastery. So how do we do that? Number one thing, and this is a quote, you can put it down, it'll probably be on my gravestone. The single most effective thing we can do as human beings in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our fucking mouths. Period, full stop. So you can do all the meditating you want. You can exercise as much as you want. You can read, write, journal. Otherwise, do whatever you want, as much of that as you want. But if you are not having the most optimal and adequate amount of nutrition coming into your body, you're still going to be riddled with impurity, and your ability to believe the things I'm trying to instill into you, or rather bring out of you, is not going to happen, because your mindset and your judgment will be clouded. So it starts with the nutrition. And when people say, well, what about that? How do you encourage that? Well, again, back to that single most important thing we can do in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our mouths, because the food out here in this world, for the most part in the Western world, is fucking poison. Eat these foods, take these medications, feel this way. Repetitive cycle. Keep people dumb, keep people sick, keep people unhealthy. They're much more valuable that way. An individual that is self-actualizing, that is autonomizing, is someone that's very powerful and healthy. They are not valuable. So to me, this is very much an unplugging process. So it starts with what I call the 30-day carnivore reset. I take people for 30 days, guide them through a carnivore diet, not animal-based, but carnivore diet. So there's 3 rings within the animal-based world or carnivore world. Animal-based being the outermost ring, where the dominance of the calories are coming from animal-based foods. Within that would be carnivore. Within that would be lion. Lion would be meat from ruminant animals only, salt and water. Carnivore, you're expanded to pork, poultry, fish, dairy, etc. So we do 30 days of a carnivore
Chicken
reset.
nuggets?
Not fried, not without breading on them. So if they were baked, or not baked, but otherwise just skinless or batterless,
more chicken nuggets than almost any grown man you know.
So why do we do this? Why do we do this? Because this is the only way to create singularity of sustenance. And that way we rid the body of impurities. Meaning, there's only one time in our lives where we have a single source of sustenance giving us everything we need.
Kids, milk.
While stressing the body the least. Breast milk, right? Why? Because it's got to be efficient. It's got to have everything. It's got to be fast absorbing. It's got to have fast absorbing. It's got to have 100% bioavailability, maximum utilization, minimal discard, and cannot stress the body, because it could fucking kill that little infant. So what, as adults, can we utilize as a single source of sustenance to provide our bodies everything it needs with minimal discard, maximum utilization, immediate use, and the least amount of stress? It's red meat, period. There's nothing else in the world that gram for gram, pound for pound is going to give you this amount of macronutrients, micronutrients, amino acid profile, enzymes, and vitamins. Nothing. So why do that? Well, first off, it's going to cleanse the body completely. It's going to rid the body of chemicals, phytonutrients, toxins, anti-nutrients, obviously the glycogen depletion that's going to take place, but the sugar that's going to wither away. And it's going to create the best amount of cellular of healthy cells by way of autophagy, right? Cells are going to self-cannibalize and cleanse the body from the inside out. So this isn't about just getting muscles and putting fucking exterior superficiality on. This is about going down to the cellular level. I'm talking Krebs cycle, meiosis, mitosis, the origin of the cell, which is essentially the origin of your being. And that can only be done through an elimination diet, period. Because otherwise you're talking about manipulations of cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, hormonal stress, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, things you do not want rattling the cage of the system. It's like being a bouncer at a nightclub. I'm the doorman. Hunter comes up. It's just Hunter. He's good. Hunter's always good. Love it. I don't have to work hard. This is easy. The place stays clean. His money's always good. Da 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 da. But if it's fucking Ryan with Hunter and Jake and these other misfits, fuck, we got to call in extra staff. These guys pee on the floor. They get in fights. Da, da, da. The place
we rowdy. The
place is a fucking mess. But when it's just Hunter, dude, we can repaint walls. We can upkeep the house. It's clean. It's copacetic. That is the body when it's dealing with a singular source of sustenance. When there's all these fucking variables, the body is living in a constant state of stress. So you're talking parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous systems that are just shot to hell. Central and peripheral nervous systems, both shot to hell, likely from external stimuli. So by way of implementing this diet, following these habits that I get you to start doing, reading, writing, meditation, and exercise, truly introspective work, reflective work, deep inner work. Do these things, eat these foods, read these books, feel this way, period. And I guarantee the results in 30 days of feeling radically different. And even by the end of the 30 days, most people have never felt better, have never looked better, and have never had more self-worth. Now, when they go for longer periods of time, that just compounds in interest. So you talk about stories, you asked about people right now with clients. One of my guys is a year-long sign-up. Friend of mine from home reached out, suicidal thoughts, business falling apart, relationships falling apart, 2 kids, doesn't know what to do. He's freaking out. He's been prescribed to anti-anxiety medication since he was an adolescent child, Xanax. He's taken a pill every single day, every single night since he was, since we were in grade school. He's 38, 39 right now. He's been with me for 3 months. Again, he's taken a pill every single day for the last 30 years. He's been with me for 3 months. He has not taken a pill in 2.5 months now.
Wow.
What's changed? Just the way he's eating, just the habits, just what he's doing, the routine, and he doesn't fucking miss.
It's interesting.
But he's been to every psychologist, every psychiatrist. He's gone through all the medical steps and profiles of what he could do, but nothing worked. For 30 years, he took Xanax every single day. And now for the last 60 days, he hasn't.
Yeah, they're showing studies aligned with people who have ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to categorize it as, that diet like drastically affects the way that these
100%
these impressions fluctuate in your body. Nobody ever talks about that stuff, by the way.
Nope.
It's so amazing.
There's no money in it.
There's no money in it. Dude, the medical industry is so fucked. Like, they started putting me on medication around the same age as that guy, and they were putting me on meds that were so heavy. I was taking 120 milligrams of dextrosine spancel, which is like, kids don't even take 20 of that. So they basically were pumping me with high levels of meth every single day.
Yep. I did the same with Concerta, dextroamphetamine.
It's so crazy, and they had me doing it. And then the last 2 years that I was on probation, they had me court ordered to do it, from 18 to 20, and it was like so ingrained in the system. And now I haven't touched a pill ever since. Like, people are like, Hunter, why don't you get back on it again? It would make you a superhero. I'm like, I am a fucking superhero. I'm like, you're the suppressed, you dumbass.
Exactly.
I was like, I run laps around you, and you take pills to even try to catch up with my shadow. Like,
exactly.
You don't get it. And dude, I ended up getting bacterial and parasitic medication in the fall because I had picked up something, and I never touch meds.
Was it another STD?
It was. It was, dude.
Dehydration-induced STD.
Yeah, dehydration-induced.
I wish it was. It was. I was on the backside of a weird one.
I've never had one of those. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, dude. So I literally I got this medication, and I finished it, and it did its job, I believe. But since then, dude, I get texts like weekly from CVS and multiple numbers from CVS trying to get me to re-up prescriptions, good deals on prescriptions. Like, I am in the business funnel for them. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. I was like, you guys don't want me to be healthy. You want me to keep on buying. You want to give me a hot.
We are the best commodity for big pharma, dude.
There's a doctor and a study going on right now that is a prime doctor shelling out all this medicine for kids that is preaching that obesity is genetic, and it is
I saw that. Problem. Jesus Christ.
And the only way to fix it is with pills and drugs. No mention of, hey, maybe we should switch the diet. Hey, if you are allergic to this, maybe we switch it to these type of foods. it's a mental health issue that obesity is, and we should just farm out drugs to help your kids with obesity.
I had this conversation with my mom. I was like, Mom, you're about 5 years away from taking diabetic medication. Both our grandparents were type 2 diabetics. Like my mom doesn't exercise anymore. She's not like by any means like heavy set, nasty or anything like that. But I'm like, it only takes you putting this stuff in your body so much until you collapse the system. And then you're going to be relying on a pill. I was like, start reversing it now. And I doubt she'll do it. I doubt she'll do it. And it's just crazy to me how many people will just allow themselves to go that far. But like that prescription that you probably just offered, I don't know what you charge a month, but let's just say high level services, $1,000, so on and so forth, to work with a high level coach like yourself, really dialed in, or the latter, which is you basically get hooked on medication for the rest of your life and be a slave to the system that everywhere you go, you have to make sure that there's a pharmacy within arm's distance in case you run out of your pills. It's just like, really? That's
and guess what? You're going to eat that same food that's keeping you there. And guess what? When you go into those hospitals, it's going to be that same bullshit food. My mother's one of my first clients. And, this is 3 years ago. She's 3 years into the diet herself. No meds, no problems. Cured her osteoporosis, cured her osteoarthritis, cured her post hysterectomy surgery, like recovery. She was, she's 70 years old, 70. Mom's 5'6", 123 pounds, just Linda Hamilton from Terminator 2. So people ask about, ageism and this and that. Like the youngest kid I got, 16 years old. Right now I'm talking to a guy trying to get he and his daughters onto the program. They're both 11 and 13 respectively with mitochondrial disease. I have, Green Berets, fucking Force Recon, Scout Sniper Marines, Janes and Joes, professional athletes. I got a guy that's a pro tennis player. He's third in the 30 to 35 rankings in Florida. We're going to get him to first. People that come of all walks of life, of all kinds, of all shades, shapes, and sizes, and like they fucking thrive, man. They can't believe it at first. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of what they are saying, what they are telling you. There's a lot of ego involved because our diets are like religions to many of us. And I'm saying this having been a fucking
talk shit about McDonald's.
Having been a fucking vegan, man. Like I used myself as an N of one with every diet that I could. Back to the girlfriends. Dated a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for over a year. Dated a vegan. I was a vegan for over a year. Pescatarian, experimented on my own. Standard American, of course, we've all been doing that. Bro diet, we've all been doing that. If it fits your macros, I did that as a bodybuilder. But all of these diets, paleo, Whole30, whatever, I did for a minimum of a year. So that way I could extract information from an accurate or ample data supply, right? To say that I can coach people and empathize with them. So when someone tells me like, yeah, I tried that diet for like, it didn't really do anything for me. How long did you do it for? Oh, like 3 weeks. Shut the fuck up. Oh, I did it for like a few days. Shut the fuck up. So minimum of a year for all these for me. And so I can tell you now, which I'm a scientist more than anything, because why? What's the job of a scientist? It's not to try to prove law or dogma. It is to test the hypothesis over and over, to try and disprove it. And this is me 3 years going now, 95% carnivore, currently lion. I cannot fucking disprove this, dude. I can't. Don't get me wrong. Sweets are great. I still struggle with cravings and things in that, like other, we're surrounded by it. We live with it. It's everywhere. It's omnipresent. But the fact fucking remains, there is nothing else like this that helps the body and that can unlock the mind congruently.
Yeah.
When you say carnivore, are you specifically saying you only eat meat? Like there's no vegetables, there's no rice?
Correct.
It's just all meat.
So like the 3 rings. So the outermost ring would be animal-based. Animal-based meaning the majority of your calories are coming from animals and animal byproducts. Now, if that's a denominator and a fraction in animal-based, the numerator may still contain other than animal items, a la fruits, vegetables, whole food items. So people are like, what about dark chocolate? Well, it's not a whole food. What about bread? It's not a whole food. So animal-based would be animals for the denominator. And then basically, if you can pick it or pull it, would be your numerator. And, depends on what your needs are, what you like. Now, carnivore is only animals. dairy, and animal byproducts. So no, to the carnivore thing, there are no vegetables. And when my people come on with me, there are no fucking supplements. We're going to talk about your medication. I want to know what RXs you're on. For sure, we're going to try to wean you off of it, and eventually you will get off. So everybody that's taking ADHD medication, they all eventually get off. Everybody that's taking anti-anxiety, SSRIs, or all their fucking bullshit, they eventually get off. Blood pressure, for sure, some of the first things to fall. It's why my heavier clients, they're averaging roughly 20 pounds a month in weight loss. Easy. My aunt, she's 70 years old. She just came on first week. She just completed this today. 7 pounds down in the first week. 2 pounds a week is a significant weight loss on any diet. That's usually a massive caloric deficit for anyone to go through. And I'm talking about 2, 4, 5, and just today, 7 pounds a week for people that are eating without hunger, people that are eating to beyond states of satiety and like incredible amounts of fullness, thriving and feeling better than they've ever felt in their lives.
The best I ever felt was an off season for about 3 years straight. I used to do steak and apples, and I would just wreck. And I was so lean and I was so strong. It was awesome. But I end up getting into these high volume spaces, and that's when I'm starting to crank McDonald's and ramen noodles, all this kind of stuff. My life is not like any of these people's lives, and I would not suggest my diet to anybody. Like, that's why I've had so many articles on me in Sports Illustrated and Insider where they're like, this dude's eating
fucking cereal and pop
butter jelly.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I eat to kill. I eat to kill. Okay.
I'd beg to say I more so eat to kill.
No, dude.
I got blood. I got blood literally on me right now.
You be there eating your pork chop and being like, oh man, I feel so good about myself. And I'm just high as a kite on Cheerios coming down from the fucking top rope. You're like, oh no. And I'm like, ah.
But then guess what? When that food is gone and we have to fast for 10 days,
I'll be perfect.
Hunter's gonna go bye real quick.
You're fucking right, dude. My mental composure would split yours in half.
I think we have a challenge on the table, gentlemen.
You do fasting as well?
You know,
yeah.
There's this one.
I just finished a 100-hour fast the other day. Actually, it was fun.
I think all the things that he's saying is truly like the cure to all ailments in life. I truly believe it. He is looking for longevity, health. I'm not trying to, I mean, his style, I would assume, is more longevity and health and optimization. Mine is just 100%. I want a gold medal, and I don't care if I have tumors because of it.
That's fair.
Listen, at least I speak in honesty. I'm not trying to preach that anybody
That's why I love you. That's why I love you. But I would still, God, especially with you,
I would love to.
The Ferrari that you are, let me get my fucking mechanic gloves on and get in there.
I would really love to.
If this thing can do this on Cheerios and fucking Pop-Tarts and do what he's done.
Well, you badmouth the Kellogg industry.
Oh my God. Like, if I could get my hands under that fucking hood, boy. Like,
dude, you don't want to get hurt, dude. Don't you bring up
more horsepower I can fucking squeeze out of that thing, I guarantee you.
Damn, dude.
And it's more about this though. You know, it's the combining of this.
You can win McDonald's for life if you get on this train.
Oh my God, dude, this fucking guy. Because it's the combination of
high
all
performance hunter,
ultra performance hunter, right? Like fully optimal performance hunter. And it's the realization of like when you're chasing trophies, like I've done, like you've done.
Yeah.
And you don't have happiness being on the podium or thinking that this was going to feel this certain way, but then it's not. Or you finish the race and you're fucking depressed. Or you finish the competition and you're fucking depressed, Jake, multiple times. And it didn't do it for me. Why? Because this wasn't right. Because this wasn't right. And why weren't they right? Because I was focused on the wrong fucking thing. I was focused on the external. I was not nourishing my spirituality and myself physically with the right stuff. And now that's what I'm saying is that I'm doing. And that's how I've refound this sense of wholesomeness. And it fucking absolutely starts with the diet. Do I still slip and struggle and dip into things and like enjoy them in the moments? Yeah, of course. But man, the feeling that knocks me off course and being able to understand my physiology inside and feel the repercussions of those decisions or consequences, it's fucking real. You know, like the elevated consciousness that is obtained through this type of eating, these type of habits is fucking age old. What are the 3 things that every great stoic, intellectual, thought leader, and theologians have used throughout history to find elevated states of consciousness. 3 things: prolonged fasting, extended treks, and isolation. So back to Hunter's talk about isolation. Yeah, like it's crazy that to think the shoe, the isolation, or solitary confinement is the ultimate form of punishment in our prison system. Yet that is the ultimate form or place of liberation to the right mind, right? Extended treks, you talking about being on those bike rides and having those high moments of peak experience, right? Where you're tapping into something within yourself that you're unable to do during a fucking WOD. Like me this morning, we're doing 50 doubles, 30 cals row, 15 front squats, and then 15 strict handstand push-ups, and then basically doing a chipper of that. So 50-30, then 10-10, 50-30, 5-5, increasing on the way to the front squat. I'm not fucking thinking about my stoicism and like enlightenment during that. You can't, man. You have to focus on the task at hand there, because if you don't, you can get fucking hurt, right? But when you're on a steady state, not that it's not intense, but a steady state, bike ride or long run, that's the flow. That's the headspace that you're able to tap into, because you've got that cocktail of epinephrine, norepinephrine coming through you, like serotonin, dopamine, and all these literally drug profile as drugs running through you, that you have those moments of enlightenment. Yeah, naturally.
That aren't probably flatlined through extremely poor sleep, eating, and
they're being naturally released and secreted the way they're supposed to. And your cortisol is like super fucking low because you're comfortable, confident, and happy, right? As opposed to most people walk around, and why cortisol is assumed to be the stress hormone. It's not necessarily the stress hormone. It's the alert hormone. Yep. But for most people, we're just so fucking wired all the time because we're processing information constantly, overly having to process information. We never get to rest. We never get to break. So we're always in that highly cortisol state.
It's this fucking thing. You guys want to know what I just did? I just bought a BlackBerry. It just arrived at my house. So I'm literally going to keep this on me at all times, like in a backpack, so I can film and post and stuff like that. But the rest of my life is going to be done with a BlackBerry. So you can either text me.
A BlackBerry still has capabilities of
yeah, but I'm not going to, it's fucking annoying. What am I going to look on, like a 1-inch screen and scroll through Instagram?
I'm going fucking
T9 texting.
Carrier pigeons. I'm going carrier pigeons.
Dude, and hopefully you reach that point. I'm so close. Our businesses in probably the next 18 months will be so powerful that I will not necessarily not have to ever work again, but I will not have to work in the capacity that I do now, where I'm just like constantly doing the monkey dance routine. I love it. I built this life for myself. I'm not going to bitch that I'm here, but I have to be the smart enough person to get out. It's like being on the Titanic. Like the Titanic was awesome, but not building life rafts properly so you can get out of there when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah,
that's on you. And I'm developing life rafts right now that life is going to be fantastic. So I don't know, man. I feel like there's so much more we can talk about. You've actually been the longest podcast we've ever done by 30 minutes. And I've got to cap this thing just because I have to go to the next call. But let's do this again. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what your intention was. We did an introduction show. Now we can do a part 2 with you and dig in deeper with some of the methods and some of the directions that you're going with. So I'm interested. I hope somebody else was interested by this. I mean, I started this show because I wanted to stay connected with some of the most impressive people in my phone book, and I wanted to have real conversations with them rather than stare at their fucking pictures on the internet. So I'm glad that we did this, dude.
Me too, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Where can people find you?
lifelikejake.com. And then on Instagram, it's probably me being my most personal and outgoing, sharing a lot at lifelikejake, same handle, same tag, and also on YouTube, same channel.
I like the sounds of it. All right, everybody. If you guys are tuning in, obviously, I want to thank Ryan for setting this up as always.
Yeah, thanks,
Big supporter of everything that we do is through house training. We've been able to, basically bring people to pinnacle fitness around the world. And if you want to be one of the next ones, check us out. And obviously, I'm very grateful for my team over in the UK. Has been really pushing really hard for builders developments and here in the United States. So I want to thank both those brands for helping fuel the fire that we use every single day for this company. So, guys, thank you so much for contributing. Thug love. I'm out. Boys, I'll see you on the flip.
That's
See
great,
you on
man.
the flippity flip.